It's Prince Patel here for episode 5 of Prince Patel Speaks. And I know what you guys are thinking. Where's the comfy bed? Where's the gold? Where's the belts? Well, what it is I've got some major renovations going on at home. And that's why last week I didn't do a video. Not only because there was nothing to really talk about in boxing, because it was kind of dry and dead last week. But this week it's picked up a little bit. And I'm sorry for not doing a video last week. A lot of people were messaging me saying what's going on, but I'm here. I told you lot there's going to be a competition. The competition is basically list all the DVDs you've seen from episode 1 to episode 5 in the comments, and the lucky winner will receive a Prince Patel t-shirt. And I'm going to pick one of the lucky comments at random. Alright, let's start this week with I'm going to talk a bit about last week's boxing as well, because obviously I missed out on talking about that. But I'm going to start off with there was a heavyweight fight last week with Kash. I don't even know the name of the opponent he fought, but he fought for an IBF European title. Every time I think of the name Kash, I think of when he decided to bite David Price for sexual reasons. That's all I think about when I think of that guy. Also, 6 years ago, he said he was gonna knock me out as well in a message to me randomly out of the blue. But every time I think of him, I think of when he decided to bite David Price just before David Price was about to give him a proper seeing to. So he decided to, bite him and look for a way out before he got that proper, all-important, good seeing to. But he picked up an IBF European title. Congratulations to him. I think that's all he'll achieve as a fighter. Don't really particularly rate him. If I'm honest, I've only really seen the little clips of the ending of the fight. Another heavyweight fight that happened this week was the Kash Ali was last week. One this week was Daniel Dubois fighting. I don't even know what the geezer's name was, but he fought for a WBA interim world title. Now, first of all, how can he fight for an interim world title coming off a knockout loss? Whether you say, oh, he didn't really get knocked out, he just took a count, on paper it says he lost via KO. Anyone else who applies to the IBF or the WBA, for example, because that was a WBA, they'll tell you your opponent can't be coming off a loss. So why was he allowed to come off a loss? And that's one of the reasons why I wasn't even interested in that card in general, because it's all BS to me, man. You got a guy who got knocked out in his last fight fighting for an interim world title. Since when did getting knocked out let you get rewarded with title fights? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit harsh on him. But at the end of the day, he got knocked out and he got rewarded with a title fight. And the funny thing is both Kash Ali and Daniel Dubois both fought Eastern European fighters. When myself went abroad to fight Eastern European fighters, I was criticised and laughed at and called a joke, yet they're paying to fly these guys over to the UK, and as they're flying these guys over to the UK, they're winning. But why is no one criticising them? Why has no one else pointed out that Daniel Dubois got knocked out and got rewarded with a world title fight? I think it's a joke. Yeah, it's a complete joke. Let's talk about Floyd and Mayweather against Logan Paul. Now this is what the highlight of my sports weekend was, getting to see Floyd Mayweather, the greatest to ever lace a pair of gloves. And that's just my opinion, of course, and many others. But I don't get the problem. Everyone has an issue with this. I've seen many people, many journalists saying it was a circus act. Now, I don't know any circus acts that make over £1 million. You've got journalists making their standard whatever wage they're making, and I remember making over $1 million, £1 million, whatever it is they made exactly. But I think Floyd actually made $120 million. Logan Paul made over $20 million. Now, no fighter on the weekend period made more than Logan Paul did. Let's just get that out there. Daniel Dubois in his fight for the WBA interim world title, he didn't make anywhere close to even 2% of what Logan Paul made, and Logan Paul was the B-side against Floyd. So why are people complaining? What's the issue? People should just appreciate that you got the greatest of all time in Floyd Mayweather jumping in the ring again and enjoying himself. The fact Logan Paul turns up to professional fights, not even professional, but that was an exhibition. He turns up to the exhibition in better shape than 95% of active professional fighters. Just look at his physique. You can see the guy trains hard. You can see he's in good shape. And it's the same 95% of boxers who criticise guys like Logan Paul, who come with the excess weight and the excess unnecessary girth that's not needed. But Logan Paul trains very hard, clearly. Obviously, you would look at Floyd's credentials and you look at Logan's credentials and you'd say, well, it's a bit of a mismatch. But it's not a mismatch when you've got that much weight on someone. And there clearly is public interest. There's public demand for it. People were clearly interested. Hence why Floyd Mayweather made in an 8-round exhibition more than every fighter on the BT Sports show and the other show that was in the UK on Saturday. I think that was the Dennis Hobson show. He made more money doing an 8-round exhibition than that whole show did, than them 2 whole shows combined made. In fact, actually, because obviously Floyd's unfair because he made over 100 million. Logan Paul made more money than both them shows combined. As I said before, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. I don't get what people's problems are. I saw Eddie Hearn say some comments about the show, saying it's a joke, blah, blah, blah. But wasn't that the same promoter who promoted KSI against Logan Paul? Didn't he promote KSI against Logan Paul? But because he's not making any of the money, because he's no longer with Sky, he has an issue. Sky Sports made a lot of money through the pay-per-views on that card, 100%. So what's the issue? The issue is he wasn't making money from it. But I'm all for it. I think it was great for boxing. I think Floyd Mayweather, look, Floyd can fight anyone and I'd still tune in to watch, which is what I did do. As a professional athlete, I normally go to bed very early, but I stayed up to watch Floyd and Logan Paul because I'm all for it. Alright, let's talk about Jake Paul against Tyron Woodley. A lot of people are criticising this fight. I don't see how. In the early part of people's careers, they tend to do building fights. Jake Paul, on the other hand, is fighting a former, multiple-time UFC world champion. So in the early part, when people do building fights, Jake Paul's fighting credible, high-level athletes. Every single one of his fights have been against high-level athletes. He's fought an NBA superstar. He fought Ben Askren, who was a UFC champion. He fought. He's now going to be fighting Tyron Woodley, who's a former UFC champion. These guys are not accustomed to losing. A lot of guys, there's no shame in doing the building fights, but his building fights have all been against highly competitive athletes. And if I'm honest, I personally believe Jake Paul, if he was to come to the UK, would win an English title. I don't even think it would be too difficult for someone like him to do that. And a lot of people are criticising him, but he's fighting high level athletes, and his promotional team are believing in him. They're investing the money. There's someone who fought on this weekend who constantly mentions his name, Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury fought a guy who was 2-0. The guy who was 2-0 apparently gave him a really good fight. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch any of that, the BT Sports show. I only saw a little bit of the Dubois ending, but I didn't watch any of the fights on it. But in that, a lot of people are saying that the fight should have even been a draw. He's fought 6 fights. 5 of them have been against losing records. When I say losing records, I mean really high losing records, like 0 wins, 20 losses sorts of opponents. How can you fight a guy who's 2-0 that no one's ever heard of, and Jake Paul's fighting guys who are UFC world champions, and you're claiming that you should be getting 50-50 against him? I have to disagree with that. Doesn't matter who Jake Paul fights, he's always going to be making big money. You, on the other hand, are not making the same sort of money that Jake Paul is. Guarantee you, Jake Paul, with one of his fights, has made more than Tommy Fury has in all of his 6 combined. And that's a fact. No one can dispute that. In fact, his fight on the weekend didn't even trend. It wasn't even trending. It only started the trend once Jake Paul's name got mentioned, when you had Tommy Fury's dad, Big John Fury, decide to do the wrestling type hype videos to try and get some interest in it. But no one was interested in that fight. I wasn't interested in it. I didn't even watch it. I'm a boxing fan, as well as a very high level competitor in the game. I'm a fan as well. But I don't get why people are discrediting Jake Paul. He's the A side. In that, if they was to fight, definitely the A side. It should really be something like 15%, and I emphasize that again, just in case Cameron didn't catch that. 15%. So 15% for Tommy Fury if they was to fight, because doesn't matter who Jake Paul fights, everyone's talking about it. And just to point this out, I can guarantee this: Jake Paul made more money in his last fight than everyone on the BT Sports show did on the weekend just gone. And you had a heavyweight WBA interim world title. So Jake Paul would be the A side even if he was to fight someone like Daniel Dubois. He brings the attention. He brings the audience. The Fury name, in my opinion, only carries weight when it's Tyson Fury. I don't think Tommy Fury carries any weight within the sport. I don't think he's as popular as his promoter likes to make out. His promoter in one interview didn't even know what reality TV show Tommy was on. He was like, you know, he was on that show, innit? That show. What show are you talking about? But yeah, I don't think he deserves the lion's share. I don't think he deserves a 50-50, sorry, not the lion's share. I believe Jake Paul deserves the lion's share. And as for Jake, I'm actually glad to see that he's staying active in serious fights. I consider these to be serious fights. No boxer goes into building fights against high-level athletes from other sports. He's already now on his record got 2 high-level combat athletes. Well, he's going to have 2 former world champions on his record in combat sports. Come on, man. What other? I didn't even do. No pro boxer fights that level of athlete in their building phase. He's not doing a building phase. He's just going straight into, I would say, the deep end. Doing really well for himself. Congratulations, Jake. All right, I just want to give a little shout out to Sam Mullins, Coach Sam Mullins from Churchill Boxing Club, which is the Prince Patel headquarters for training now. I want to thank him for allowing me to use the office, as he knows I've got some renovations going on at home, some building work, which obviously you wouldn't have been able to hear me, and it wouldn't have been great material. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Prince Patel Speaks, episode 5. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe